Going up in thousands of races across the land. And in the quintessential running competition, well, they call it the marathon. Here in Chicago, 12,000 have gathered on this windy morning to run 26 miles, 385 yards. Some just to run, and some here have the power to win. We're waiting for the start. The gun is up. 12,000. The 1985 Chicago Marathon is underway. Doctors, lawyers, brothers, sisters, each with their own private reason to run this race. But there's some, as I mentioned, with the power to win. The field of elite runners, those who could win or set a record, it's really a who's who of magnificent runners. Could be at least one world record today. Let's take a look at the field. For the women, running the first marathon since she struck gold in L.A. with a new name and a new vision, Joan Benoit Samuelson runs to recapture her world mark, a mark snatched away by this woman, Norway. Ingrid Kristensen, who now owns the world records at 10,000 meters and the marathon, and has the tools necessary to upset the Olympic champion. But the surprise for the women could come from Portugal's Rosa Mota. Mota, the two-time winner in Chicago, also edged out Kristensen for the bronze in L.A. Finding the finish line first could leave someone with a world record. So 2:14:30. So there you got to look at Ingrid Kristensen on the left of your screen. She's from Norway, and of course that's Joan Benoit Samuelson behind her. So it's the Olympic champion in Samuelson versus the world record holder at 10,000 meters and the marathon in Kristensen.
You know, Joan Benoit is usually the pressure applier in the races that she goes into, but at 10:16 they're not running a marathon, they're running 10,000 meter pace. Joan Benoit was running 5:08 pace at the top 10,000-meter race in Boston, her last preparation. Each one of these women ran 31:50, 31:49 for her last 10,000-meter tune-up. They right now, if they keep this pace up, will run 31:50 for the first 10,000-meter race here today in the marathon.
Up ahead now in the men's field, and it's still
a mile, but it's still unbelievable. Benoit in the lead now with Kristensen, and this is really quite a confrontation because they are running like the men what one would consider normally suicidal type pace. I mean, they're running very fast. They're racing right away.
You remember Joan Benoit Samuelson, of course, in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. She took the race at about the 3-mile mark. It was extremely hot there, over 80 degrees and very high humidity. Nobody followed her. Ingrid Kristensen finished 4th in that race, and she later said that she was really sorry that she had hung back with her compatriot, Greta Weiss. So Benoit Samuelson and Kristensen running to, and the world record set by Kristensen is 2:21:06.
John, just to give you an idea how fast Joan Benoit and Ingrid Kristensen are running, number 71 is Barry Brown, the finest master runner over 40 years of age in America. He was second at the Orange Bowl Marathon this January, and the women, he's gonna have a hard time beating Joni and Ingrid. Again, look at the mask of concentration on Joan Benoit and Ingrid Kristensen. They are racing right away. They've just passed 4 miles. They have 22 plus miles to go. This is really going to be, this is phenomenal racing. This is what we expected. We expected Benoit to be the person applying pressure and Ingrid to go out and try to break 2:20. The key is Ingrid's going out to break 2:20 and Joni's going out to break Ingrid.
It really is amazing. On April 21st in London, Kristensen knocked over 1.5 minutes off of Joni's 1983 world mark, which was set in Boston. And now Kristensen told us at the news conference that there's no way she's letting Joni get away. But I'm wondering, we have Rosa Mota, the defending champion Olympic bronze medalist, somewhere back there. I'm wondering if this isn't suicide for these two top runners.
Rosa hopes so.
Well, Joan Benoit Samuelson and Ingrid Kristensen have different reasons wanting to win this race. Maybe that's because the two are that different in real life. Here's a look.
Well, I think people have me pegged as a hermit living off the coast of Maine, and in fact, I'm not. I have a very close circle of friends, and I think I'm a very sociable being.
But not when the competition comes from Ingrid Kristensen. Joan Benoit, historic gold medal winner in the first women's Olympic marathon. Ingrid Kristensen smashed Benoit's record to become the current world record holder. Now, Joan wants the record back. Ingrid, determined to avenge her Olympic loss to Joan, trained with Joan's picture in front of her on a treadmill during the cold Oslo winter.
Every time I run at that treadmill, I look at Benoit running on the finish line with her arms over her head.
Going even further with her mental training, Ingrid listens to specially prepared tapes that tell her she can go faster, she's strong, she can beat Benoit.
I have a tape telling me how the Chicago Marathon will go, how fast I want to run and breaking barriers.
The birth of son Gota 2 years ago presented another challenge. Ingrid believes the added responsibility has only enhanced her running career. But now she works hard to separate her professional dedication from the rest of her life. Her son and her husband Arv help her maintain this balance, but when it comes to race time, well, her commitment is intense.
I want to prove that I'm the best marathon runner in the world. I feel I'm ready to take Joan Benoit.
I'm ready sooner than I thought I'd be ready, but I'm ready.
When Ingrid said she was coming to Chicago to run under 2:20, it was a challenge Joan had to accept, for that was her next step. But it was a rough year after the Olympics.
Things just caught up with me. I had trained very diligently for that race, and then I had the knee problems before the trial, so it was very emotional for me. And then my wedding and marriage right after the Olympics, and that all adds up.
Well, now, Joan Benoit Samuelson's back on track. She's training well, but also enjoying the main autumn she shares with her husband, Scott.
Scott's been very supportive of my running. He's a very giving person. He gives me everything that I don't have as an individual.
Joan does exude that main spirit of the independent outdoors. She has grown in the last year, putting things in perspective. But sometimes, well, the subconscious does it better.
I had a dream the other night that it came down to a contest between Ingrid, Rosa, and myself, and finally the official said, okay, you're going to count spoons. First person to count 100 spoons is going to win the race. And, you know, I woke up and said, what am I dreaming about?
Well, if there are any psychologists out there watching and listening, you could probably have a field day with that. You know, Tony Revis, I think that may make a statement, the disparity between the two styles of training, you know, both mental and physical for the two.
I agree, John. That much mental training by Ingrid Kristensen seems an admission of a fragile racing psyche. It has hurt her in the past. We talk about Joan Benoit Samuelson and Ingrid Kristensen, and yet Ingrid has never beaten Rosa Mota in a marathon. The European Championships in 1982, the Olympics, and then here back in Chicago last year. So that much mental training seems to mean that even Ingrid knows that that's
1800s. The Chicago River, as it flowed into Lake Michigan, used to bring a bunch of sewage in there. And then they reversed the flow of the river to quell that. Now, you take a look at Joan Benoit, still Kristensen right over her shoulder.
That's on Lakeshore Drive, and they're right along Grant Park with Michigan Avenue way off about 3 blocks on their right-hand side. And again, Joan Benoit is actually controlling the tempo, and Ingrid just eyes focused forward. Joni is trying to get Ingrid's mind off her goal, which is to run 33 minutes for every 10K. The key, according to Ingrid when she spoke with me, is not to run the first 10K faster than 33 minutes. Because earlier races this year, when Ingrid, even though she's run spectacularly, she's had a tendency to go out too fast. Whereas Joni does not worry about splits, in other words, incremental times along the way. She runs how she feels. And that seems to be a less inflexible game plan going in. In fact, these two are so far ahead that we cannot even see Rosa Mota, the two-time defending champion, or Katrine Dora, the East German champion, which really is a great sign for how tremendous this race is, that East Germans are sending now athletes to America's marathon. First time that East German athletes have ever come to a Western marathon. There wasn't a championship event.
Well, the object is obviously to win this marathon as we take a look at Benoit Samuelson and Kristensen. But in doing so, these two, if they don't blow up, will likely just smash the world record. Benoit Samuelson and Kristensen slugging it out on the streets of Chicago. We'll be back. The world record is 2:21:06. If they were to run at this pace, the projected finish would be 2:16:50. Ingrid Kristensen from Norway on the left of your screen. She is the world record holder at 5,000 meters, at 10,000 meters rather, and at the marathon. Former 5,000 meter record holder. On the right of your screen is Joan Benoit.
Hi, this is Alberto Salazar at about the 7-mile point. Joan Benoit Samuelson and Ingrid Kristensen are really starting to push it now. I think that Joan Benoit Samuelson is trying to make a hard move now. She ran her last mile in about 5:08. Look at the look of concentration on her face. She doesn't know what's going on around her. She just knows that she wants to push it hard now. Kristensen has a worried look on her face. I don't think she feels as good or as confident as Joan does, but she knows she has to stay with her now or it's going to be all over. The look of concentration on Benoit's face is unbelievable. She knows what she has to do, just like in the Olympic marathon, when she just pulled away with no fear at all and went on to win. She's trying to do the same thing today, even though they're running at a 2:16 pace, which would break the world record by 6 minutes. She's looking unbelievable. And now back to you, John.
Joan Benoit Samuelsen in charge of this race, but not by much. Ingrid Kristensen, the Norwegian, just over her shoulder. A blistering pace. The question is, have these two ladies taken it out too fast?
John, the way Joan Benoit deals with pressure is to get the racing over with as soon as she possibly can. Apply it. It's like a basketball player who takes an outside shot. Somebody guards you, you take a step back. You keep taking step backs until they don't guard you anymore. Joan Benoit keeps running faster and faster until somebody doesn't go with her. And that seems to be the case we're going through right now, as Ingrid is now 2 strides behind Joan. The point is Joan being suicidal in this endeavor, or does she think she can go all the way to the finish line at this pace?
So Joan Benoit Samuelsen and Kristensen, the only story, but what a story it is in the women's race. Now back to the men. Right now the streets of Chicago are playing host to a most interesting battle between Joan Benoit Samuelsen and Ingrid Kristensen. They are running faster than any women have in the marathon so far.
You know, John, it's still Joni who's doing the controlling and Ingrid lingering 1 step behind.
Look at this.
What are they doing?
Kristensen.
No sugar. I can't take it anymore.
I think she said there's sugar in the water, and you can taste it. That's unusual to see two athletes, first of all, passing a bottle, and next, talking to each other, running at this pace. Look at that. And Ingrid Kristensen. They just went through the half marathon in 1:09:33. You see the world record at the bottom of your screen. That would knock 2 minutes off of the world record if they were to continue at this pace. Joan has been trying desperately to shake Ingrid. That is her style. But Joni has not had any luck. Now, up in front in the men's race.
2 races, and neither of them had particularly strong fields, and he won both. So perhaps this is the one he now feels confident with the distance, and this is the one when he's going to try and let it all go and see exactly what he is capable of.
A hard time getting water. I think part of that could be, Tony, that they're running so fast and they don't want to break cadence that it's difficult to grab water and hang on to it. We've seen her have trouble with that.
Well, there's a runner right on Joni's right. In order to get water, she either has to drop back away from him to slide on the inside or get up and surge in front of him to get on the inside. So what you're using, in a sense, is non-tactical surges, strong surges to go in front in order to just to get water. Ingrid's playing a very smart role right here. She's letting Joan control the tempo, but her face looks very, very good. She's not overly concentrated. She doesn't look to be working all that hard. Joan seems to be very fresh at this point as well, and they're still on very fast pace.
If you saw that feature earlier in the program, you know that Ingrid Kristensen, in the cold, long Oslo winters, trains on a treadmill for hundreds of miles a month. And above that treadmill, in front of it, is a picture of Joan Benoit winning the Olympic marathon. Kristensen was 4th in that marathon, and she trains with a vengeance. She would love to beat Benoit Samuelsen.
You know, Ingrid Kristensen said, I'm in better shape now than I am before London. I'm faster than I was before London. Why can't I run faster here than I did at London? She doesn't understand why she cannot, and right now she is.
I got to imagine that Kristensen is just a demon over Joni's right shoulder. Joni hates to run with a pack of runners, whether it be one or more.
She keeps applying pressure in order to try to get rid of all the competition and then run, in a sense, frightened from the front. But Ingrid is in such good shape that she has not been able to shake her.
The women's race and the men's race shaping up as the fastest of all time.
30. So perhaps he's slowed marginally, and as I said, I think at this stage of the race, any sign of a slowdown by Bones isn't a good sign. Obviously, he wasn't going to maintain that pace all the way through to the finish, but the further he could maintain it, the greater would be his winning chance, obviously. Once you start to slow down, the tendency is just to get slower and slower.
It's new territory for him also. I mean, he hasn't been beaten in a marathon he's completed, but he's never done it like this. I mean, in London he had Spedding and Hutton and a group for a long time. In Chicago, as we well know, he had a long group for a long time and then broke away. So as tough as he is, and the women at, what are they, Leonard? They're just outside the world record of 25k.
25k.
1:22.59, about 4 seconds outside the record.
So they've gone from a situation early in the race of being miles inside of it. I think 2:15.55 was their fastest projected time. So they've dropped back to around about the world record pace. So the critical point for them in terms of the world record will be the next 5 kilometres. If they can hang on to the 2:21, then they may have a chance. But if they drop back another half a minute or so, then it'll be beyond their reach, I think.
I think at this stage they are starting to drop back. I can't really see them maintaining that pace through. Perhaps if Kristensen challenges Benoit, Benoit still has something left. The pace may pick up again. It's very, very hard to pick up the pace again.
So Joan Benoit in 3 of the United States, leading the women's field. And behind her, and just behind her, is Ingrid Kristensen of Norway, who in London this year set the fastest ever time for a female marathoner, 2:21.06.
No real gap has ever appeared between the two. If anything, I think Benoit has got 3 or 4 metres in front. It's been virtually the same all the way, with Kristensen just sitting on her.
Very much so.
Both look comfortable, don't they? I mean, obviously they're running close to their maximum, but they both look very comfortable.
And their commentators back there as well.
I don't see any signs of distress in either woman yet. I think they're both still running strongly, although they are slowing a little.
We can assure the person who told us that was Salazar, the commentator, definitely isn't. It's not Alberto.
No, I'm still pumping for Don Carter. Maybe a great trivia question in about 10 years' time. In fact, it's happening a number of...
Will knock 2 minutes off of the world record. Joan Benoit has been trying frantically to shake Ingrid Kristensen. She has not been able to do so. Benoit has not run a marathon since the Olympic Games, where she won the gold medal. Ingrid Kristensen, the lady who trains with a picture over her treadmill of Joan Benoit Samuelson, trying to beat the lady she could not beat at the Olympics. Now, Kristensen owns the world record and the world record at the 10,000-meter distance, and she has a chance to beat Samuelson. But Joni will have something to say about that.
As she's been saying it all along, John, the longer it goes with Ingrid sticking behind Joan, and the pace is slowing slowly by a few seconds per mile here in the second third of the race, the longer Ingrid can just stay right behind Joni, the better it is for Ingrid Kristensen.
We saw earlier in the race that Joni had some problems getting water. We've actually seen these 2 young ladies exchanging water bottles.
Talking. Actually, Joan applies pressure, the rubber band stretches out, Ingrid falls a couple of steps back, and then she recloses. That's happened about 4 or 5 times.
All right, let's go down to Alberto Salazar. Alberto.
This is Alberto Salazar at about the 17-mile point. For the last 10, 12 miles, nothing has changed. Joan Benoit Samuelson has continued to lead, with Kristensen trying to stay right behind her. And I'm starting to notice Kristensen doesn't look as good as she did in the beginning. She's alternately either clenching her hands or trying to open them up and then shaking her arms loose. I don't think that she's feeling as good as Benoit. Benoit looks exactly the same as she had when we started the race. Just a look of utter concentration on her face. Her stride and form has not changed in the least. Kristensen, on the other hand, has a worried look on her face. And I really feel that Benoit knows right now that she's just got to keep this pressure on. Kristensen is just about 10 feet behind her, and she's keeping that contact, but she's, every once in a while, it goes between 5 and 10 feet. It's like a rubber band between the 2 runners. You can't let it stretch too much or it'll break. I know that Benoit knows right now that she just has to keep that pressure up, and if she can break her, she knows that she'll have it. Kristensen, on the other hand, knows that she just has to keep that rubber band intact. She has to stick with her. Back to you, John.
Alberto, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Could you hear what Joni and Ingrid were saying to each other when they were talking, when they were exchanging the water bottles?
No, well, I think that Kristensen was just telling her what was in the bottle. Joan didn't want to drink it unless she knew what was in it.
All right, now the wind is at their backs now, I understand, about 12 miles an hour. Can you feel the ease? Are you going at the same pace as they are.
Yeah, we're going the same pace as they are, and we can't feel anything behind us. The wind is not a factor at all.
All right, Alberto. So Joan Benoit Samuelson and Ingrid Kristiansen still slugging it out.
Actually, John, when you have the wind, when you don't feel the wind, it is at your back, because you're running forward by about 10 or 11 miles per hour. So the wind at your back means that you are sort of running in a vacuum of it. That means it's at your back. So it actually is helping a little bit. But it was an excellent point by Alberto. Again, it is just like that rubber band. Joni's trying to stretch it and break it, and Ingrid's just trying to maintain that contact. Look at the right arm of Ingrid. It's a little bit more of a whip. Joni's form, again, very clean, very smooth, very efficient. And Ingrid is just sort of, she's a little bit more rough naturally than Joni is by stride, and her face is contorted more naturally than Joni's is by nature. And you'll have to look at the small nuances as the race goes on. But Ingrid's baring her teeth, Joni is not. 17 miles, 9 to go. This is when it all begins. This is where, if they want to call things about the wall, this is the area of time. Once you get past 17, 18 miles that it starts happening.
Well, this course here in Chicago certainly has to be one of the best marathon courses in the world. It's perfect. They went out, they had a little bit of wind in their faces, 55 degrees, perfect temperatures for it. Now the wind is at their back.
Well, the wind is actually sort of a crosswind again, coming off the water, off of Lake Michigan. And again, the women seem to be slowing even a little bit more. Last mile, their projected finish time was 2:19.25. The mile before that, it was 2:19.06, a full 2 minutes in front of the world record. Now they're down to within 45 seconds or so of the world record.
They've still got 50 seconds up their sleeve in terms of the world record. And as interesting to me, anyway, is the fact that we've still got a great contest going on between the two of them. So it's a territory that he hasn't been in. And we go back to Benoit and Kristensen, remembering they're on 2:20.12 projected pace at the moment. No sign of Motta or Doré. They've obviously decided not to run at this pace or even get near these girls at this stage, and their hope would be that they can both come back to them.
Of course, and of course Doré ran the European Cup on September the 15th in Rome, which was a marathon in fairly warm conditions, although she ran 2:30, which is a good deal slower than her best time of 2:26. I was a little surprised to see her in the field for the Chicago race, particularly given that she'd also run the World Cup marathon in April. So that's a third marathon in virtually six months, and the last
in Hiroshima. He had a bad patch between 30 and 35 kilometres, so that might be critical for him here.
Yes, in both those races he lost contact a little bit, and then finished on fairly strongly, as strongly as the runners that he dropped off, and that's in 9:50. So that's still 4:55 pace. He's slowing, but it's not a critical slowdown yet.
Those two girls also, Bruce, still well inside the projected time for a new world record.
I'm getting a great buzz out of this. I hope the people that are watching at home are. At the moment, he's got to blow up pretty badly to run slower than his 2:8.05, which is his best. He's got to lose a lot of time in the last 6 miles, doesn't he? You're looking at about 30 seconds a mile.
Yep, that's right.
That's a big blow up.
He ran the second 10 miles about just over a minute slower than the first 10.
Is this a break by Benoit, do you think?
It looks like it. Certainly Kristensen's moved to the head of that group of men in an effort to try and follow her, and she looks like she is.
She's closing it, yes.
Closing the gap.
If that's as big a gap as Benoit's ever had, no, Kristensen is closing, so Benoit, I think, might have had a little tickle there and a little try.
Yep, she certainly has.
You must think Chicago's the most painful place in the world, I think, Jones. I don't think you'd be taking in the scenery very much at this stage. So Benoit and Kristensen have got away from the men again. So
it doesn't look, however, like the 2:20 barrier is going to be snapped. They've been slowing down slowly after an extremely fast opening pace through the first 10 miles. It's now become a race for the win and still potentially the world record. But slowly that time is slipping away and the win will become all important.
Back to Steve Jones now, and Joni has begun to make an even stronger surge. It looks like Ingrid Kristensen, her shoulders are up, looks like she's tying up.
Well, the distance, the gap between Joan and Ingrid tells us a much greater deal. Joan Benoit still looks very fresh. Her arm carriage is very much the same as it has been. The look on her face, she doesn't need the muscles in her face, so they become very slack, and there's almost her eyelids almost flutter, her mouth is open. Ingrid is falling farther and farther back.
Dave and Len, this is the biggest gap we've seen. It's not insurmountable, but it's 10, 15 metres.
And the strain is starting to show on Kristensen.
So there.
Her whole key was to maintain contact. Her right arm is whipping up. Joni is running with Otis Sanders, who's a 2:14 marathoner right there in front. Joni's running with the big kids.
Otis Sanders was actually one of the leaders of the New York Marathon last year for a while. You know,
Every bit of it, Kristensen is throwing her head around a little bit more than she was.
it's amazing. Joni's Olympic win was so smooth, it's easy to forget how close she came to not even going to the games. She won the Olympic trials just 17 days after she had arthroscopic
Got a 2:05:01.
And Benoit's looking around too.
surgery. Ingrid Kristensen, take a look at her face now, Tony.
Well, it's all written on the face. Ingrid, as I said, has a little bit more of a furrowed brow by nature. But right now, Joni looks so smooth. The masseuse that the race organizers hired, Mimi was telling...
It's widening, Bruce.
Yeah, she's got this incredible marathon record. Kristensen.
Telling me just yesterday, she worked over all the bodies of the top athletes. She said Joan Benoit Samuelson was so...
Has run so very, very fast in London twice. She hasn't really won a major championship. Actually, she's really dug in here and she's decided to have a crack and try and get onto...
I'm thinking this is going to be it for Joni for a long period of time. She was saying that she was putting all her marbles into one basket, and we could not see Joan Benoit for a long period of time. She has been concentrating on this one race for an extended period of time, and all her marbles are into this particular basket.
Back up front now for the men, Steve Jones, women's race. She's maintaining contact again.
But again, the key, like Alberto said earlier, is that the rubber band was strung out the farthest that it ever was strung out. Now, Ingrid brought it back.
There's a good look at how close she is now.
But she brought it back, but the key is, will Joni try to stretch it once again?
The women's race is not over, and Jones is slowing down. What will happen when they finish the marathon? Place.
He's got to get there. Showing there, but he's still running strongly, isn't he, Bruce?
This has been a great battle because I thought mile mark for Robley. And again, this gap opens up with Benoit and Kristensen, and maybe Ingrid's played her last hand in the battle for winning.
If that was the 22-mile mark, it makes Robley down around about 2 minutes.
Carl Thackeray was brought in for that purpose, and he didn't make it to 3 miles.
Look at this now. Joan Benoit Samuelson has begun to make another move on Ingrid, and the question is, will the rubber band that you were talking about break at this point and force Kristensen permanently into second place?
We can only wait and see. It seems like each time Joni stretches it out, it gets farther and farther. One of these times, it's simply going to break. The interesting point is that even when Ingrid does close it back, she has never gone into the lead to try to break Joni. So Joan's confidence has to be soaring at this point.
From Freeport, Maine, it's the Mainer in the lead. The first marathon since the Olympic Games, and I'm wondering if Ingrid Kristensen may have raced too much this year compared to Joan.
Well, again, it's not so much that she raced a lot. It's just psychologically, she's had a tremendous year. She had the world record in London in April. Then she had world record 10,000 meters on the track at the Bislett Games in Oslo, her home country. And now she's trying to cap off a brilliant year. Joan hasn't done diddly, to use her words, for 6 or 7 months. And what happens is she's been peaking psychologically for this for an extended period of time. So she's got everything riding on one race. This is the beginning and perhaps the end for Joan, where it's just the end on top of something very phenomenal all year for Ingrid. So psychologically, a very different approach.
Well, you saw that projected time, and that still has Joan, if she continues at this pace, running better than the world mark that was set by Ingrid Kristensen.
Again, we saw Otis Sanders on her right.
Oh, look at Ingrid now.
Oh, yeah, Ingrid. And there's a Djibouti runner. There's a Djibouti runner, Elmi Ahmed, who's the 3rd Djibouti runner running his first marathon. And Joe Benoit will probably join the Djibouti team after this and go to another World Cup.
It gives you some idea of just how fast the women are running at this point. Will Joan Benoit stay on?
He was right up there with them. He just missed that split for Benoit, but the gap's significant now.
Significant now. I would say at this stage that Kristensen is just got to try and maintain it as best she can to the finish.
The strain's showing there at the moment.
Yeah, and she's got to try and hope that she doesn't lose form completely, because she lost two places in last year's Chicago Marathon over the last 10 months.
Back to that Hiroshima race, though, Bruce, I think undoubtedly this is a fantastic single performance that we're seeing, but That's the other Djibouti runner, I think, running with Benoit there.
It wasn't Shamaik, but it was the third runner from Djibouti. They've got 3 in this race and 3 in New York.
Looking at
Also, Djama and Joan Benoit, who's...
And Benoit, who's was always been inside the world record pace. Now we're about to get Benoit's projected time. It's around 2:20.25, so it's still well inside. Well, not well inside, but it's still 40 seconds inside the world record.
Comfortable margin, but of course she's got 25 minutes of running to go yet, so just over 4 miles.
Do you think it will help her now, knowing that Kristensen's gone, and the fact that she's got the race won if she can maintain this?
Oh, sure. I think in such a race against such a strong field, it's just unbelievable.
And what he and Benoit have
interview, he didn't. He said that he didn't think he was yet in the shape that he was in 1980, 1981, and 1983 through that period. He felt he was getting back to it.
And his final time will indicate that he was probably right.
I suppose one thing that is in Jones's favour...
Alberto Salazar in the sidecar that just went past Joan Benoit, by the way.
I suppose in that...
With London and Chicago, but in terms of strength of field, probably this year London and Chicago a little stronger.
Well, there's Alberto Salazar there in picture.
He's feeling a lot more comfortable. That's right. We just haven't seen a half that fast, an opening half of a marathon that fast.
And likewise in the women's race, we haven't seen one any quicker, I don't think. Kristensen was probably on a par in London.
Let's have a look at the exact splits on the women's race. Perhaps they weren't quite... Certainly that first 5 miles, they were a lot faster, and that makes it a pretty tough race. But certainly by the time they got to halfway, they weren't running a great deal faster than either of them have gone through before. But...
champion Joan Benoit Samuelson. She had some trouble until about the 19-mile mark with Ingrid Kristensen, but now it's all her race, and she is also running under world record pace.
Application of pressure, response to pressure until 20 miles. Then the pressure of Joan Benoit finally cracked Ingrid Kristensen, and Joni has been running alone ever since. Now it's the win, now it's the time. Her face still clear and fresh, her stride still nice and elegant. Her arm carriage absolutely perfect. Wearing number 3, yet she is number 1.
Joan Benoit Samuelson now. She was married just prior to last year's marathon. Didn't compete because she was injured. Again, this is the first marathon she's running since her Olympic performance in Los Angeles.
Joni is simply a winner. Joan has always been a winner. Records come out of performance of first-place finishes. And Joan Benoit goes into situations. I asked her back after her last race, tuning up for this in Boston, Joni, I guess you're not going to have times that you want to hit at specific miles on your...
Well, if I believed I could do something to help him from here.
Well, Benoit's slow. That's the first time she's been outside the world record projected finish, but...
The projected finish would not set a world record. That world record is, of course, owned by Ingrid Kristensen. Back now to Joan Benoit for the women's race. She is still in the lead, and we'll see if she can go for the world record in the women's field. We'll be back. Stay with us. And here in Chicago.
He'll be under that. He's going to run about 2:85, I think, or 2:86. They're about to get his... I hope they get him over the line. No, they missed him. That's ridiculous. That's bad luck. I don't know who's directing over there, but it would have been nice to see what he ran.
I would have been quite pleased to see what he's run, but he's run a PB, and I reckon he's dipped under 2:8.
We'll find out in a moment, because we are in contact with Chicago, but we'd guess he's run about 2:8.05 now. Benoit's still about 14 or 15 minutes away, so I hope we can get DeCastella coming in and some of the other male runners as well.
Benoit was just outside the world record pace for the first time, the last split they gave, but she was well under her own personal best of 2:22.43, which was set in Boston in 1983, and probably regardless of...
Well, I can tell you that Robley, in running, if he's run 2:8.05, that's the fastest second placing of all time. And DeCastella's 2:8.51 is not... Well, it's 25 seconds off the fastest third placing of all time, so it shows what a quality run it is. In comparison with his other great runs, 2:8.18 and 2:8.37. So it's what, the third fastest he's ever run?
Yes, I think so, yes.
It's faster than he ran in the Commonwealth Games. He ran 2:9.18 there. His fastest was 2:8:18 in Fukuoka, 2:8:37 in Rotterdam, so that's DeCastella's third fastest ever. Well, we've just been told that we're almost certain Jones has been given 2:7:12, which means that Lopez and Jones are the equal world record holders in a sensational year for marathons.
What a year, yeah. I think too, with the Lopez time, there was some controversy over the course, which was thought to, well, hadn't been verified, but I did see a newspaper story in the lead up to this race that said the course had been verified by independent measurers and had been found to be 20 yards long. The ruling now is that courses have to be at least the marathon distance, so if that's correct, then that removes any doubt over Lope's course.
Well, Joan Benoit has gone through the 24-mile mark at 2:09:29. And this has been a great race from Joan Benoit as well.
Well, what a sensational race all up. 2:7:12 for Jones, equalled the world record, went through in 61:46. Rob Lay, we're guessing at 2:8:05. It'll be around that. And DeCastella at 2:8:52, 2:8:51. You know, Rob's got to be absolutely delighted. I know he hasn't won, but he certainly has run.
He's run very,
a great
very
race.
Well, and I think the year that he's had, it should give him a bit of confidence looking forward towards the Commonwealth Games.
Well, 84 was a disappointing year for him, wasn't it?
Disappointing in the fact that he didn't win the Olympic Games because he went in as a favourite, which is always a tough thing to do. And I think by his own incredibly high standards, disappointing. But here we've seen him under 2:9 again, which is great. I think he might hope that Jones runs the European and not the Commonwealth Games.
He's a pretty competitive animal.
I know he is.
I think he'd like to have another crack at Jones. I guess you'd have to question whether he runs Chicago again next year if he runs the Commonwealth Games in July. It might be a bit close.
I'm just thinking, then, that if Lopez does run next year and runs in the European Championship and Jones runs in the European Championship and they don't clash between now and then...
What a race that should be.
Well, you can have all your promoted races in the world, but that's the one that would be the big one of the year.
Yep. And there could be another bloke named Charlie Spedding in that race, of course, and John Tracy even, if Tracy, the Olympic silver medalist, concentrating on running very few marathons, keeping them even less than people like Jones. So, yeah, I think we're looking at some very, very good marathons coming up.
What we're trying to do at the moment is find out some of the other place getters from the men's race. We've got the first three over the line, repeating Jones has equalled the world record at 2:7:12.
It does me no good when you let it go in front of us. No good at all. Lead up. Right there, man. Right there.
Well, apparently Jones told some reporters after the race, we've just had contact from Chicago, that he wasn't disappointed not breaking the world record, but terribly pleased that he actually won the race, which is what he set out to do.
Dave, I reckon if someone had said to Jones before the race, you're going to run 2:7:12, he would have said, thanks, I'll take that.
I'll take that, yeah. I've just done some quick mental arithmetic on Joan Benoit. My mental arithmetic's becoming more and more suspect as the night wears on, but I have her getting to 26 miles at 2:20:29, which I think would have it just outside in fact, probably 20 or 30 seconds outside the record. So again, if she can pick up a bit from the crowd support, knowing the pace that she is running, she's still an outside possibility to get that world best.
What she's doing, of course, is running a big personal best. 2:22:43 is her best.
And a great competitive win.
And I think there's no doubt now that she is the best marathoner in the world in the women's ranks.
No doubt whatsoever.
I mean, Vates isn't here this week. She'll be next week in New York. But I mean, Greta's, as great as she's been, has never got down to this pace, 21:22 mark.
No, and probably nothing that she's done this year suggests that she will. She may run a personal best, but I don't think she'll run this fast.
Not only is Benoit's finishing time going to be interesting, I'm going to be fascinated with how Kristensen finishes, where she finishes, and if she
whether
finishes.
Motta or perhaps Dora can come through and pick her up over the closing stages. But Benoit's run has had one factor, of course, it was missing in all of her other marathons. It's been a very, very competitive run, and that's a lot. That's a very significant factor. It's a great competitive run to beat your greatest rival, probably in a time that's a personal best for sure, and perhaps even a world best.
So as we watch the progress of Joan Benoit in the Chicago Marathon, just repeating that Steve Jones of Wales in 2:07:12 has equalled Carlos Lopez's record in a tremendous performance And now we're watching with great interest the finishing time of Joan Benoit, 2 times winner of the Boston Marathon, the Los Angeles Olympic champion. 13 marathons, heading for her 8th win. An incredible performance. And what a performance it's been, Bruce.
Incredible, and Len seems to think that she's picked up, and looking at her now, she's looking fresh. We think she might just miss the world record, but it's going to be a huge American record, and it's not going to be very far outside.
No, I'm trying to work out splits in my mind for the last 385 yards, but I've got to get into the 26-mile mark in about 2:20.10. So I think that would not give her enough cushion over that 385 yards to break the world best. But it's going to be very close, and fantastic run, as we've said.
We've also got to remember that there's a huge difference between Kristensen's best time and the next best time ever run, which was Benoit. It was almost a minute and 3/4, which is an enormous difference at 2:21.06 compared with 2:22.43. So Benoit's been able to take some time off, have a bit of a break mentally, I think, after the Olympic Games, get herself right again and come back and run even faster than ever.
Well, there's one of the 2 lagoons, which suggests that she's not all that far away from Lincoln Park, the finishing post of the 1985 Chicago Marathon.
It's an interesting line in support of not running marathons as frequently as people have run them in the past. Benoit's run 1983 Boston, the 1984 Olympic trial because she had to, 1984 Olympics, and now 1985 Chicago. We've just heard down the line that she's running 2:21.27 pace, so that would put it just outside the record.
Talking about backing up with marathons, what about that performance of Veronique Marot of Great Britain this year?
In London,
In London.
She ran one a week after the World Cup. Well, if Ron Tabb runs in New York next week, which he says he's going to, that's going to be 3 weeks after the...
Chicago is basically a 2-woman race. Joan Benoit Samuelson and Ingrid Kristensen from Norway went out hard. Joni was finally able to drop Ingrid, but now she's begun to slow. And although it appears likely that she will win this race, she slowed below, I appear, world record pace. Now, the time that we showed you for Steve Jones, which was unofficial 2:07.13, has now been confirmed, which is 1 second exactly off of the world record set by Loesch. And Jones, at one point, was, I guess, 3 minutes below world record time.
He was more than 3 minutes. When Joan and Ingrid started off in this race, they were running 2:14 marathon pace, and now it looks that Joan will run somewhere in the low 2:21s. But again, if you look at her just visually, forget about time, she looks just about exactly the same now, late in the race, as she did very early in the race. She's a metronome. Piano teachers could use Joan Benoit to teach kids how to play the piano.
There we go. After mile 25 now, the projected finish for Joan would be 2:21.27. That's Ingrid Kristensen's world record there, as you see at the bottom of the screen. Joni getting encouragement from the crowd now.
You know, John, back in 1981 in December, Joan Benoit underwent double Achilles surgery, which was followed by an American record in Oregon in 1982, a world record in Boston in 1983, an emotional win at the U.S. Olympic trials, and then a gold medal in the first ever women's Olympic marathon last August. There isn't much really left to prove. She's here in Chicago because the hunger has returned. The competition was the best ever, and outside the Olympics, that's the truth. The world record aside, sub-220 aside, Joan Benoit is into doing the thing she does best, and that is winning.
For the first 20 miles, it was as close as you could get. A match between Ingrid Kristensen and Joan Benoit Samuelson. Samuelson in the only marathon since the 1984 Olympic gold.
You know, John, it might be the fast start that Joni applied pressure to Ingrid. It may have kept her away from the record here today, because Ingrid wanted to run 33 minutes for every 10K, leading to a sub-220. The key being not faster than 33 minutes for the first 10K. Joni took her through in 32:23 for the first 10K. If you let Ingrid Kristensen find a rhythm like a big pitcher like Dwight Gooden, you'll never see her again. Joan Benoit competitively may have given up the record to win the race.
And now, to the final stretch, the 28-year-old Mainer from Freeport, Maine, whose father was a mountain trooper in World War II, is showing just how strong she can be. The American flag is in evidence as Joan Benoit Samuelson. The final few strides to the finish line here in Chicago, and they love her. Joan Benoit Samuelson does not break the world record, but it is an American record, 2:21:21, and that, behind Ingrid Kristensen, is the second fastest women's marathon of all time.
John, you know, at the press conference on Friday, Joni said, I'm on target for a personal best in a marathon. She didn't mention sub 220. She did not mention world record. She says, I'm on target for a personal best, and that's what she ran.
Well, this was billed as if it was going to be one of the fastest fields.
2 hours.
Well, first you just want to stop, then you want to keep on moving. And actually, you often find that if you're not feeling distressed, the ministrations of people just past the finishing line can be as much of a hindrance, although you appreciate they're well meant. But you just like to keep your legs moving a little bit. Very few people go as far as to take a warm down after a marathon, I must say, but you just like to keep your legs moving a little bit so they don't seize up.
So the city of Chicago, Bruce, will be long remembered in 1985 for two of the superhuman performances of Steve Jones of Wales and the American girl Joan Benoit.
Well, I suppose you can't call it good luck all the time, but Bob Bright, who's the race director, really has got the hottest race in the world. There's no question. We had an amazing performance by Jones last year, and today, you know, is this Kristensen coming in?
I believe it is.
Yes, so Ingrid's hung on very, very well. She's around 2:22. She might...
It was known as the other Norwegian, running in the shadow of the legendary Greta Weiss. Well, today the shadow was thrown by the diminutive American Joan Benoit Samuelson, who forced Ingrid into second place. Certainly a respectable time there. Ingrid tried to stay with her and did so over 20 miles, but Joni was, as usual, just too strong. As now we see Rosa Mota from Portugal, who will finish third.
We saw Ingrid take a quick look back. She must have known that Rosa might have been coming. The crowd must have been telling her. And Rosa Mota, a tremendously strong finisher, normally, again, it's her 7th marathon. It's her 7th consecutive personal best.
Rosa Mota, she's happy about that. Still with some strength for a smile.
So she's run 2:23:30. So, David, what we're going to see here is a succession, I think, of huge personal bests. And Kristensen must have known that Mota was closing. I mean, there wasn't a lot in it at the end. Mota must have been able to see Kristensen.
Yep.
Well, that's an incredible, something around about 8 minutes off Rosa Mota's first ever marathon winning time, and that's only, what, in 2 years?
That was her first ever in Chicago. She had won the European back in 1982 on a hot day in Athens in 2:36. She's come down from winning a major championship 3 years ago in 2:36 to running 2:23.
Joni, what a great race. You said you came here for a personal record, but you came so close to the world record. Were you disappointed?
Yes and no. The field was so competitive, and it was such a competitive race. I'm extremely happy with the win here today, and given the conditions, I'm real happy with the time.
Some people feel that one of the reasons you might not have gotten the record was that you went out a little too fast. We saw Ingrid was talking to you early in the race. Were you discussing that question?
No, we were discussing the solution in her bottle. She offered me some, and she said there was salt in it, and she meant to say sugar. And when she said there was salt in the solution, I backed off, and then she said sugar. And then we discussed where Rosa might be at the time, and she said that she thought she was farther behind. And at that point, I knew Ingrid was feeling pretty good, and I was a little concerned that maybe I had gone out a little too fast, and fell off the pace a little bit. But the winds were pretty strong. We kept turning into the wind, and I think that slowed both of us down considerably.
Well, it was a great race today. There's been a rumor around all week that this might be your last marathon for a while, that you're thinking of stopping for a while and having a family. Any truth to that?
Not really. 220 is still out there, and I still want to be part of that race, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, it's a great effort. Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. What do you think we've witnessed here today, Tony? Maybe the evolution of this race?
Well, I think so. I think we've seen, first of all, that the women's race had a bigger focus than the men's race, and I thought that was very important. A tremendously competitive race. We saw Steve Jones pull at Joan Benoit.
All right. Thank you, Tony. For Tony Revis, Alberto Salazar, and Craig Masbach, I'm John Tesh saying so long.